entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Screen Time Continuum. Very special episode, Pop Culture Onslaught Takeover. Happy Sunday, everyone. Happy Sunday night to you out there, and happy Sunday night to you, Keelan. How you doing?
Happy Sunday, brother. I'm doing well. I'm kind of glad to be back with the Pop Culture Onslaught. I think the people are interested when we come with these.
Yeah, why not? It's a nice casual conversation. Normally, we do movie reviews, which are sort of structured around the telling of the movie and our critiques of the movie. Sometimes we just want to have casual conversations and maybe include you guys as well if you tune in. And that's what sort of Pop Culture Onslaught is. It's where we just decide to talk about whatever we'd like in the realm of pop culture. And tonight we're going to be speaking of our favorites and what we think the best Steven Spielberg movies are. I have his filmography pulled up. We will be talking about each of his 33 directorial movies and giving our opinions. Some of them we have not seen, so we won't be able to give a full opinion on that, but most of them we have. And we'll give you our favorites at the end of the episode as well. Now, Steven Spielberg, if you just take his directorial credits, he's made 33 movies. But if you add the producer credit, he's made over 200 films. He is a very, very prolific director. Everybody knows him. He's a household name. And I thought it would be a fun episode to just go through his filmography and start talking about the stuff that we like. And maybe there might be some stuff we don't like in there too, but we'll have to find out.
Right.
Yeah. Keelan, you got anything before we jump into this that you wanted to
I have a few things.
intro with?
So Steven Spielberg, first off, I didn't realize how long he's been doing this. Like, he made his first movie when my mother was like 2.
Yeah. His first movie, which was a TV movie called Duel, was 1971.
Yeah. Well, okay, wait. I'm sorry. Let me back up. You're right. He made his first movie in 71. He got into the industry. That's what I meant. Not that he's been just being a director and directing for so long. I had no clue how long he's actually been in the industry. Like,
yes, much
from
longer
where
than
he
that.
started. And I don't even know. I was trying to find out, like, did he start as a stagehand, as a grip or something of that nature? And there's really no way to find out.
I can tell you.
Hey,
yeah.
There is a way to find out. I just couldn't find it. Go ahead.
And this sounds kind of like a canned Hollywood, one of those Hollywood answers. But apparently, according to Steven, he snuck onto the Universal Studios lot and started helping out on movies.
Well, it was about 1959, so I actually believe that story.
It might have worked. Yeah, usually
then,
that would get you kicked out and maybe worse. But for him, he was able to sneak onto the Universal Studios lot and apparently get work maybe in menial labor, small jobs or something like that, until he got a shoe in the door, which was actually George Lucas. After he saw Steven Spielberg direct an episode of Columbo, I forget the exact title. George Lucas gave the recommendation and the green light for him to make Duel, which was in 1971.
Wow. Okay.
But pretty crazy. I mean, just sneaking onto a film studio and then becoming one of the biggest directors in the world.
Yeah. I had it pulled up. I can't find it immediately. I did have it earlier, and I did also see in his television resume that he worked on Columbo. 1971 episode 1-1, sort of first episode of the first season, Murder by the Book.
There you go.
The episode that he did. So same year as when he dropped Duel, actually. So right behind that. So that's one thing, is how long he's been in it. So his stamp says 1959, I guess is the year he snuck on the lot. That was one thing I thought was interesting. I know he had some involvement with DreamWorks So DreamWorks Pictures and Animation Studio, he's a part of the creation of that, the co-founder of that. He
Mhm.
also is the co-founder of Amblin Entertainment, which has given us I mean, you can go back through the early 90s with like Animaniacs, Looney Tunes, things of that nature, on and on when it comes to TV and those things. He is the highest grossing director of all time with 10 billion plus dollars for his films have been brought in to date. Um, Other little things to note. He's directed at least 11 TV shows, produced on probably more than 50. I counted up to 50 and stopped. Um, 10 video games, one video game that was never released, and two music videos. So Steven Spielberg is that guy apparently in Hollywood. And something that I did not realize, he is dubbed the king and or the inventor of the blockbuster cinema.
Mhm.
All
Jaws.
I had no clue. Yeah, I knew that Jaws was that thing, but I didn't realize Jaws was literally the induction of what a blockbuster is.
Right.
And I didn't.
Yeah, and we'll get into Jaws, but is there
Okay.
any other numbers and stats that your research brought?
Let's see. No, some of these numbers are a little more personal to my viewing of Steven Spielberg. Um, there are 33 completed films. He has a 34th film that is considered a somewhat of a biography, and it came out last year, but that's not considered something he directed. So that comes up on the list as number 34, but it doesn't come up as something he directed, which is weird.
Right.
Outside of that, there's nothing really astronomical, which is interesting. At least nothing that I found. And I'm going to continue to say it that way. Nothing that I found, because if I were to go through the numbers that a lot of the movies bring in, that's a whole different discussion. Um, Last thing worth noting, Schindler's List and Schindler's List and Jurassic Park. Um, Still that goes down that year. I think that was 93, maybe 94. That year goes down as one of the biggest feats in cinematic history, where Spielberg was able to put down two of his greatest works, which turned into two of the greatest works of history.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and if you want astounding, again, just go look him up on IMDb and just see his producer credits
Mhm.
because
You'll be
good
reading for a
lord,
while.
yeah,
It took me
and
about a day to get through. Like I thought it would get an hour or so. I
yeah,
took a few breaks. It took me so long to get through everything because I tried to read every line.
and many movies, so
Mhm.
like we're really just going to focus on the directorial stuff today,
Right.
because producing stuff would just take us too long.
Right. Also, I want to note that Steven Spielberg has done voice acting work on like Tiny Toon Adventures and things of that nature. So there are a lot of different things we can pull from if we were to just talk about Steven Spielberg in the industry. So we definitely have to choose directing or something specific.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Keelan, what do you want to get into this list? We have 33 movies to talk about. So,
Ooh wee.
ooh
Um
wee.
well, I guess let's start with movies we haven't seen. So we have a total list of 33.
Hmm.
Um I have it broken down into movies I have and have not seen, and movies that I believe I've seen, but I can't quite remember what they're about. So I'm kind of pushing them towards the unseen, but I know more about them than the movies I know for sure I haven't seen.
Hmm.
And then we have a favorites list. I'm sure you also have a favorites list. That's like
Yeah, I have my
the
favorite.
code.
Yeah, I have my favorite that I guess I will wait to comment on
Mhm.
until we get there. But maybe we should just go through. I don't know. I can just give you the chronology of things, and
Okay,
then we can just comment along the way.
let's do it that way, and then we can comment on what we have and haven't seen based on
Right.
which one we're talking about in the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
I,
that
w-
that'll
I
be
wish there was
good.
a Pinky and the Brain movie. I just want to say that out loud because that would
Hey,
be
there's
something
there's
great.
still time, man. There's still time. It could happen.
Good
You
point.
got to keep the hope alive.
With you saying that, the reason that is such a pivotal, like, no, there really is still time. Um, Spielberg still does great work. One, there's a new season of Ren and Stimpy. We do not have to discuss it now. I'm just saying if they're bringing that back, they can definitely bring Pinky in the Brain or Pinky Elmira in the Brain. Ooh, but sorry.
See, I have a worry that they won't do it in 2D animation and it'll be in some grotesque
Oh, don't do
3D
that to me.
like
Don't
rendering.
do that to me. They'll do it like they redid Rugrats.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking about. Yeah, the creepy Rugrats. Yeah,
Yeah, that was gross.
yeah, totally gross. All right, well let's start off with Way Back Yonder in 1971,
Hmm.
with the film Duel, which is rated at a 7.6 on IMDb here. And the synopsis is: a business commuter is pursued and terrorized by the malevolent driver of a massive tractor trailer. And I've actually seen this when I was younger. I
Nice.
didn't realize that I had seen it before, but I went to go check out the synopsis and get some information on it. Spielberg's first movie, really just the first like TV movie he did. It's kind of greenlit and assisted by George Lucas after seeing the Columbo episode. And it really just revolves around a man being chased in his car by a semi truck. And it's kind of cool because Spielberg talks about about it being his sort of exploration into Hitchcockian storytelling. And so there's a lot of suspense, there's a lot of paranoia, there's a lot of isolation in the movie. It's really only centered around the guy in the car. The guy in the semi truck you never see. So you get this sort of ominous feeling about a dude that's basically being run off the road by road rage.
Oh wow.
Yeah. You know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like Jeepers Creepers
Okay.
without the
Except
monster.
yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
except the monster is a truck or a truck driver.
Yeah. I mean, the monster was a truck driver in Jeepers Creepers, but you know, like he was a monster. So
Fair. I never really. Wait, was he a truck driver originally,
yeah, he
and
had
then
the
he got
truck that
changed?
said "Be eating you."
Man, I'm gonna have to go back and watch Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Duel. One I have not seen.
Hmm.
I read it. It seemed like and I didn't think. I just realized I didn't think to look it up. It's not called Caroline. It's the red car.
Yeah, I think Caroline.
Is that the name of it? Caroline,
I
the
think
red,
so.
like
The
the convertible car.
Stephen King movie or
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
Stephen
yeah.
King book. I
Yeah.
think so.
Okay, maybe it is Caroline. It reminded me of that, just the synopsis of it. Excuse me, especially with you letting me know now that you never see the driver of the truck. It's like, wait, so maybe the car itself was sentient.
Yeah, you only see the driver's boots, I think, at one point, and
Hmm.
then you don't really see the his face or anything like that. But it was a purposeful decision on Spielberg's part because he wanted to sort of reference Hitchcock and this idea of like I guess Hitchcock's idea was never give your audience
What they want.
not give them what they want, but not give it to them too quickly. His
Mm,
idea was that he wanted to give as much time as possible for the audience to feel uneasy and not understanding
mhm.
before he gave up the information. And so I think that that's what Spielberg did in this movie.
Okay, that's that's a formula.
It's
That's a
formula.
formula we've seen poorly executed time and time again, not by Spielberg. Um, wow. Okay. I think that in itself, and here we are still at the top of the episode, that is why this is so enjoyable sometimes, just diving into the background of how movies come about. Like to
Hmm.
know that Steven Spielberg's very first movie was just him saying, I really like the way this guy did it. Let me take a shot at that.
Yes, and when I picked up because I did research on Spielberg most of the day today, just
Mhm.
watching movies and reading and stuff. What I picked up is that most of his stuff, um, like his movies aren't original ideas, but
Right.
when he finds a story, he feels very compelled to make it. So usually when he chooses a movie, it's because the story, for some, and I think most directors feel this way, but like he knows the story is good, and so that's why he's making the movie. Um,
Yeah. With you saying that, something that I noted as well, I didn't realize how, it's so weird. I'm going to say it this way. I didn't realize how human Steven Spielberg was through his films. Like, if you want to know kind of what this dude feels or how, like, where he stands on certain things, and maybe I could be wrong, maybe it's just entertainment and he takes a little bit of reality and throws it into that. But I kind of feel like there's a temperature about his work when it comes to humanity. And I think his work shows you he actually believes in humanity, and not many people can say that.
Yes, his I guess one of his main tenets is respect your audience,
Hmm.
and the idea is that he wants to take you on a ride, which is funny because so many of his movies have been made into rides, which makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah, well, not
Yeah,
so
I just
many,
thought of
but there's a
three. No,
few.
I thought of three off the top of my head.
Yes,
I just thought
yeah,
of three off the top of my head. Wow.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great way to break that down.
I
I'm
think
glad
that's
that
kind of
none of
cool
those.
because
Uh
it
huh.
does feel that way sometimes. His movies do feel like a little bit of a roller coaster sometimes.
Yeah. I have to just make this joke because I was already thinking it in my head. I'm just glad that none of those rides were Amistad.
Me too, or the color purple, right?
Oh God, listen. The color purple probably would have been an interesting like walkthrough museum.
Sure. Yes. Exhibit, something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would love to learn how to play patty cake or slide. I can't play that game to this day. I'm on the color purple already. We're not there yet.
Oh, I don't have the hands for slide either, so don't worry about it.
Never admit you don't have the hands publicly.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh man. All right, so let's get on to his second film. His second film is The Sugarland
Sugarland Express.
Express. Yes,
Mm.
1974. It's rated a 6.7 on IMDb. And it's the synopsis is a woman attempts to reunite her family by kidnapping her husband, escaping from prison, and working together to kidnap their son. But things don't go as planned when they are forced to take a police hostage on the road. I looked into this movie too. This is also kind of a little recognized movie that he did, but it's more of a comedy than a drama, which I think made it more palatable for people. Um, it's kind of like, I guess you would want to put it in the same vein as like Bonnie and Clyde, stuff
Okay.
like that, like the chase movies.
Hmm.
But it's about a woman and her breaking her husband out of prison, and then the state is going to take their children or their child, and she kidnaps the child and her husband, and then they go on this a cross country chase where the police
Do
are
they
trying to go after them.
do they accidentally hurt or kill a cop?
They take a cop hostage. Yes.
Wow. All right. So this is one of those moments where you think to yourself how stories go in circles and you find out like one movie like the Sugarland Express just now just let me know I can name about three movies that spin that off in some way. One of the most
Hmm.
recent and most prominent in my mind right now is Queen and Slim, minus the child aspect. But that's very much kind of that story, except for they weren't married. They meet. It's a first date. It's past the once you meet the cop, situation happens with the cop, minus the hostage situation, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
Cross country run from the cops, and
Yeah.
it's like, wait, what? As soon as you said that, I was like, oh snap, that could be the inspiration. Again, how film works.
Yes, and that motif takes heavily from westerns,
Hmm.
pardon me, as well.
Okay.
Which, yeah, I'm sorry, what is it called? The Sugarland Express is also a sort of an homage to westerns with comedy in it as well. Um,
And most westerns had a good amount of comedy, in my opinion, from the westerns I've seen.
mhm. Yeah, even if the comedy is just being cheesy, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
usually some raw, like really lowbrow comedy, but it's still a laugh.
Hmm. Hmm. All right. Well, now we're going to get into more notable movies. His third movie was,
Picks up pretty fast.
yeah, I mean, one could say one of his best movies ever, and that would be 1975's Jaws.
Boom, boom.
Um, dun- which has an 8.1 on IMDb. And most people know the synopsis, but when a killer shark unleashes chaos on a beach community off of Cape Cod, it's up to a local sheriff and a marine biologist and an old seafarer to hunt down the beast. Um, something that was interesting, I think Ayla had said to me, she said, Steven Spielberg's movies always heavily rely on particular sounds.
Yeah,
And I think that she's right about that because, of course, we have the strings of Jaws
yeah,
and like one of the most iconic movie sounds there is.
right. Um, I want to say Jaws might have not just the boom, boom, but that wink. It's like almost like
Yes.
okay, the sound. I can't really explain it,
The
but
John Williams stuff. Yeah.
Right. And it almost
Hmm.
makes me, I'm sure I know a lot of that stuff, like the Wilhelm, all these things existed before things like Jaws, but Jaws gave it the opportunity to dive deeper into cinema.
Hmm.
Um, with that, you have something like Jaws. I think without the use of sounds in the way Steven Spielberg, he clearly understands how the visual effect and the audio effect pair hand in hand.
Hmm.
What some people don't understand is the level of science that goes behind that. Like if he uses the wrong sound or if he goes and uses the wrong visual with the sound, it won't be intriguing. You'll actually be disgusted with what you're watching.
Right. Well, and the animatronic shark that they named Bruce um,
Bruce.
was also kind of hokey looking, and
Yeah.
so a lot of the intimidation of the shark is the sound, because
Mhm.
you don't see the shark all that often in the movie, and it's because I think Spielberg even kind of recognized that the shark kind of looked a little clunky and hokey when he was making the movie.
Mhm.
So again, with that Hitchcock very sparing. Um, like monster, very not trying to show too much. And I think the ambiance really makes it. Although I will say, if I'm going to critique Jaws, it's going to be the fact that great white sharks do not frequent Maine. It's far too cold for them there. So,
I got a couple
you
of
know,
other critiques for Jaws, but it still was a good movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we also have to give Jaws its credit for what it really is. Jaws is the another, not just the blockbuster, but an introduction to
The
animatronics being
blockbuster.
used, right, animatronics being used successfully in a blockbuster, in a mainstream film.
Hmm.
This isn't your Godzilla level suits and graphics, right? And you consider this is still almost 2 decades before we get those dinosaurs.
Hmm. Yeah,
This is an
almost.
incredible feat for the time it comes in.
Yes, definitely. And I think Spielberg has always been kind of close to that too when and I miss his animatronic days, to be honest. I think CGI has killed animatronics, but that's really unfortunate because
Unless you go see Cocaine Bear.
unless you go see Cocaine Bear, that's got to be CGI though too, most of it.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
But a couple of those scenes, I'm like, oh no, that looks like an actual, like they actually were on scene for this.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, Jaws, what a great film. I am preferable to Jaws 3 because it's so awful. And I think that that's the one where they get trapped in the underwater aquarium. Um, pretty sure. Jaws got weird after Jaws 1. That's for sure.
Look, I'm sitting here like I barely remember Jaws 2. I just want to say for those who are here with us, those who tune into this, who keep along with this episode, Jaws 2 nor Jaws 3 are on Steven Spielberg's list. That tells you
No,
something.
no, because he didn't direct them.
That tells you something. I wonder if he's even on the production team for those things. I think he just was like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore.
Well, I mean, you got to think about the cultural phenomenon Jaws was as well. There was a problem with people going to the beach after that movie
Really?
because of, yeah, it was, I mean, the slogan was don't go back into the water or something for the movie, but it created a huge panic with people and sharks.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, if people were that lackadaisical around sharks, then thank you, Mr. Spielberg, because people are still getting bit on a regular.
That's true. That's true. Not in the Jaws numbers, but yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely.
Yeah.
Nothing. I don't think the Jaws numbers have ever been real in any respect. I
Right.
think fish are under the Jaws numbers.
Yes, they are. Definitely. Well, then we can move on to 1977 and Close
The
Encounters of the Third Kind, which is
number
rated.
tree.
What's that?
I said of the tree kind.
Of the third kind, yeah. It's rated 7.6, and it's a synopsis is Rory Neary, an Indiana electrician lineman, finds his quiet and ordinary life turned upside down after a close encounter with a UFO, spurring him into an obsessed country cross quest for answers as a momentous event approaches. And yeah, it's directed by Spielberg. This is the intro into Alien
Hmm.
genre that Spielberg will pick up in another movie. I remember Close Encounters. I like it. It's kind of a slower burn. Some of his movies get a little bit long.
Mhm.
And I think Close Encounters is it's not that long, but it's 2 hours and 18 minutes.
Yeah.
But I don't remember a whole lot except for the ending scene where they're communicating with each other through light and sound.
Right.
Um, that's one I need to probably dive into.
Okay, so thank you. Because I was
Hmm.
okay. Close Encounters of the Third Kind is on my maybe list.
Hmm.
For a few reasons. One reason is I believe you guys covered it on Exofathom, or when you guys covered Close Encounters and all of the different types of encounters. And I got intrigued when I realized, oh snap, Spielberg did one of those. And I
Hmm.
believe I went and watched it. Now, I wasn't quite sure until you just reminded me of the ending and the communication with the lights. I'm like, oh crap, okay, so I did see it. However, something about the entire Close Encounters genre, right? It's usually kind of off as this documentary-esque style of films. Like, oh, there might be some truth to it. There might be some knowledge in watching these.
Hmm.
Um, what I love about it popping up as what word are we on, number 4? The fourth film for Steven Spielberg in his career, especially for who he comes up to be, is it lets you know that even people who are out there who you would assume like, oh, they're just doing what the studios tell them to do and they're just taking it like, nah, I'm pretty sure Close Encounters of the Third Kind was not a studio beg, if that makes sense. I
Mm.
think that was one of those, and as again, as we see through his filmography, because of his, I guess, immense talent, we'll call it that. Um, Maybe Steven Spielberg, unlike other directors, is able to put more of what he thinks, what he feels, and the things that he sees in the world onto film. But I think Close Encounters is a perfect example of that, when someone is able to do I forget what we call them. I don't want to call it a buddy flick because that's not what it is. But it's like and it's not a passion piece either. But it's just something that is just close to them, close to the chest.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily strike me as something that would be commercially accepted, especially back then. Um, but it was quite successful. I think I have it here. It grossed $132 million back in 1977. So it did pretty darn
That's pretty
well.
good. I would
Yeah,
say it's still in the top 200 movies I mean, today.
probably.
People are
Yeah.
still interested in those kind of movies. Now, again, I know we're talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but what did we get up to, like the fifth kind or something of that nature?
Yeah, that's that documentary we watched. Yeah.
Right, right. That's where my interest started. Like, wait, what?
Hmm.
And then yeah, in a few more movies we'll get into Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind, but it's not called that.
That's true. That's true. Well, let's move on to Steven Spielberg's most disliked movie.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. This is by far his worst rated movie. It's 1979's 1941. And it has a 5.8 on IMDb, but a 30 on Metacritic.
Oh wow.
And it stars John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Treat Williams, and Nancy Allen. And it's a hysterical Californians prepare for a Japanese invasion in the days after Pearl Harbor. Yeah, so I looked into this, and this is actually another comedy starring John Belushi, and it's based off of the Battle of LA.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know. Do you know about that?
Yeah. Vaguely. You could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Battle of LA happened in I think it was the 40s or something, somewhere around there. But basically, it was during the war, World War II, and everybody was very paranoid about invasions and things like that. And there was an incident in which there were some unidentified flying phenomenon over Los Angeles for
Mhm.
about, I think, like 5 or 6 hours. And
Yeah.
it got so bad that the military started shooting at the things in the sky. And the engagement lasted quite some time before the objects sort of just disappeared.
And
And
this is before the 46 event, correct?
yes, yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And it happened in 1942. I think it might have happened in 1942. And yeah, it's basically Steven Spielberg's idea was that he was going to create a sort of comedy movie about this paranoia that Americans were going to get invaded, and so the movie is sort of predicated on this idea that The Californians are going paranoid because they're afraid that the Japanese or the Germans are going to attack. And I think they sort of like trick themselves into being convinced that they're attacking, when that's not really the case.
Oh, wow.
Yes, but it's definitely Steven Spielberg's lowest rated movie. People do not like it.
Right. And I just want to say, if on IMDb your lowest rated movie is a 5.8, give me that career.
That's not bad. It's definitely not bad.
Not at all.
Right.
Some people's highest rated movies are 5.8s. Are you kidding me?
Yes, indeed they are. Well, we'll move on to from the worst rated movie to one of his best movies. And this is Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones, 1981. It's an 8.4. And it grossed $248 million in 1981, which is that's a lot of money.
Yeah, isn't Raiders his highest grossing film and Jurassic Park's behind that, or is it the other way around?
It might be for adjusting for inflation, but Jurassic Park definitely made more.
Okay,
we'll get to that. It definitely made more.
All right. Yeah. To context, and I love you, man, but I have to say this, and you might feel a way about me after I say it. Raiders of the Lost Ark is the only Indiana Jones film that I can verify that I have seen. I believe I've seen Crystal Skull. I believe that's the one with Sean Connery, right?
No, that's the Last
Or is
Crusade.
that Last Crusade. Okay, so I believe I've seen that one, but I don't remember it in totality. That's on my maybe list. But Raiders of the Lost Ark is the only Indiana Jones flick that I like can actually have a discussion about.
Yeah. Iconic film. Everybody really knows that movie. I don't think we need to talk about how great it is. At least I don't. I love that movie, of course. It's a very good movie. Harrison Ford is fantastic. John Williams' arrangements are great. It's just a classic movie, and I think most of us know that already. But not my favorite movie, so we'll have to talk about that
There's
later.
another Indiana Jones flick in.
yeah, there is.
I do want to say Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones has to be one of the most annoying but like captivating characters at the same time. It's like, why would you do that, Indy? And it's like, all right, go, Indy, go. It's freaking annoying, but you can't stop watching.
No, you can't. I mean, he gets into great adventures, and I really miss that franchise. You know, Indiana Jones, my grandfather, I used to go spend summers with him, and he lived in like the middle of nowhere, California. And he had 6 VHSs, the Star Wars trilogy and the Indiana Jones trilogy. I wore those bad boys out.
That's a good watch. You can't be mad at that.
No.
I'm trying to think of the hours on that. That's at least
it's probably like
hours?
probably 12 hours of and and I'll be there for at least like a month, so I'm watching those a few times,
and I'm sure they were the director's cuts if they were the box sets.
No, they were just the original VHS.
The individual
box sets didn't exist back then.
Nice. He's like, no, he was into these.
Yeah, they were the originals for sure. But Indiana Jones, great movie. I think we can probably just lump all of the indies together until we get to my favorite, unless you want to mention any indies.
I don't lump them all together because your favorite
not the last one.
Lump.
Not the
right?
last
I'm
one.
gonna say your favorite gets lost in a lump. You add some terribleness to it, like we'll go one by one on those.
All right, fair enough.
And in the Indiana Jones series, I can honestly say again, I can only verify for sure that Raiders of the Lost Ark is the one that I can actually sit and talk about. Temple of Doom, Last Crusade,
Kingdom
Crystal
of
Skull.
the Crystal Skull. Yeah.
I know of all of those, and I can say I've probably seen pieces, probably walked in while it was on TV or something, but I know I've never sat with them, except for again, maybe possibly The Last Crusade, but that's only because Sean Connery's in it that I feel like I might have actually watched that whole movie. So I personally would not suggest we do that, Nick. This way you can at least get your time.
Well, yes, of course. I got you. Well, let's move on to number 7, which is E.T. the Extraterrestrial, 1982. Yes, the fourth kind. 1982, it's a 7.9. And it grossed $435 million, which is That's a lot.
for
I keep
1980.
saying that's a lot, but it's like you got to
It's
remember
really
this
dope.
is 40 years ago.
Yeah. And it's just gonna get more. It's only gonna get higher because of inflation, because of the times. Shit, I think one of his worst movies, even though it's not rated, one of his worst movies, which we'll get to way at the end of all of this, probably made more money than E.T. just because of the times.
Yeah, probably. Probably. E.T. is a great movie, though. It's a very innocent. I think it encapsulates a lot of what everybody likes about Spielberg. There's a sort of like nostalgic innocence about childhood that he captures pretty well. E.T. is definitely one of those movies. The iconic scene of the flying bicycles becomes the logo for Amblin. So it's one of his benchmark movies for sure. And yeah, and Drew Barrymore's in it as a kid, so that's fun.
Hmm. You know, it's so funny with the Amblin symbol. Even when we bringing up Amblin at the beginning of this episode, I did not even really pay attention to that.
Yeah, it's the kids flying on the bicycle in front of the moon.
And we've been singing it our entire life, so it's just, I guess it just became normal.
Right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Do you remember the ET ride in Universal?
I do. In fact, I was just having a discussion about the ET ride. I want to say earlier this week, we were talking about. That's why when you brung up how many of his films have been turned into rides, specifically at Universal. Actually, I think that's the only place they would be. But I think that's why that was so interesting to me, because it's like, hey, wait, actually, I can name the three off the top of my head, and we were talking about how they cycled through them back, like before it took so long for them to go from one to the other. Like at one point all three of his, or excuse me, two of them were at one park and one is at the other park, but at one point all three of them were running at the same time. At this point only one of them still exists, and it's not the better one. The better one was ET.
The better one was ET. Jurassic Park sucks. I don't understand.
And so does Indiana Jones the ride.
Well, Indiana Jones is at Disney, right?
Yeah, that's what I said. It's at the other park. Two's at one park,
right.
One's at the other park. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And the Jaws section of the tram ride is still kind of fun, but that's not exactly a ride. That's just kind of driving through.
I forgot if the tram ride was even still going. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, they can't take that away. I think they took parts of it out, but
yeah, I was saying there are parts of the ride that can't be there because those exhibits aren't there anymore. Okay, true. Yeah, I guess I have to go up there and see what the new tour is like. Oh man, they took out Backdraft. I don't want to go.
They did. Yeah, that's been gone.
It's been gone.
Yeah.
Look, they don't even know what I mean. Like, there's people like, what is he talking about? Backdraft? You mean like when you touch the handle? Yes, that's what I mean. But there's a movie about it.
It was like a walk-in experience.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
You
smelled like soot when you walked out,
and it was hot as hell. Good Lord. The trick was to get on Jurassic Park, get soaked, and then go to Backdraft.
Yes. This is how I know you were outside as a kid, because that was that's exactly what you were supposed to do. And if you did it any other way, everybody just looked at you like you were crazy. And mind you, it's the middle of the valley. It's already like 99 degrees outside.
Yeah, it's very hot. Yeah. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. All right. Number 8 is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, 1984. This is 179, so not as much as Raiders of the Lost Ark. Still a solid movie. Yeah. I think I will just say that I will always love this movie, and it'll always be my personal favorite Spielberg movie. I think it, so that there's a big contention about which is the best Indiana Jones movie in the trilogy, and all the quote unquote nerds or the geeks or the people who are super into it are like, yeah, it's obviously Raiders, but that's such a normie take. It's like saying Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie. It's like, you might be right about that, but the fact that everybody says that makes it not good anymore. Right. So Temple of Doom has always been my favorite Indiana Jones movie, and it's because I think I understand it for what it is. It is a response to James Bond. And so everybody's critique about Temple of Doom is that it gets way over the top and crazy. But a lot of it is because it was in competition with the Bond universe. And so a lot of the situations that happen in Temple of Doom that are sort of out of character for Indiana Jones, at least in the first movie,
Mhm.
to me seem more like, okay, well, England is doing Bond. Indiana Jones is our Bond.
It's America.
And so
Yeah.
we need to put him in more fantastical, crazy situations for him to get out of. And that's what Temple of Doom does. Plus, I like to think of it as like a fever dream if you watch it, because it kind of is a fever dream. Like it's so surreal and weird. It's a fantastic movie.
All
Yeah.
right. So for me, with the Temple of Doom, again, I have to keep saying it as we talk through all of the. Actually, this is probably the last time we're really going to talk more than 3 minutes about an Indiana Jones movie for context.
Hmm.
But again, Raiders of the Lost Ark, I can verify and go through that movie. Temple of Doom, I only know the temple parts. I don't remember why he's even there. I don't remember what happens after he escapes the temple. I know nothing except for the temple parts, and I blame that ride for that.
Bro, I'm telling you right now, you need to watch this movie because he literally jumps out of a plane on a raft.
What?
It's amazing. It's so good, dude. It's so good.
and and with the way you just explained it also made those fantastical parts, because I always thought that was one of the reasons that Temple of Doom didn't jump out to me, is it
Hmm.
was too fantastical. And again, I can't verify that I've seen the rest of the movie. I just know I've seen all the action scenes, and that could be a YouTube thing that I went down a rabbit hole a few years ago or something. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Um, so with all of that, I personally get what you're saying when it comes to Temple of Doom. And I believe that when you say that the first movie in a series, especially something as long as Indiana Jones, Star Wars, those things, the first one, yes, of course, it's good. If it wasn't good, there wouldn't have been a sequel. But the
Right.
sequel, the second one, is usually the leaping point. That's how you
Hmm.
know if it's really good or not. Because if the second one's not good, you're not getting the fifth one.
Yes. And a lot of people don't realize that the second Indiana Jones movie is actually a prequel to the first one. So it's actually going back in time to
Hmm.
before Raiders of the Lost Ark, which kind of is interesting because it sends Indy back further into skepticism, where he believes less about stuff, about
Mhm.
like the magical elements of stuff, because he hasn't seen the Ark yet.
Okay.
And then you get like the Last Crusade, where he's like already deeply into it. But yeah, Temple
Because
of
he
Doom
actually knows
is
curses are real by then.
right, right. Temple of Doom is great. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's absolutely bizarre, but Ki Huan Kwan is in it.
Mhm.
He plays a short round, and he's fantastic in it. And yeah, go watch that movie if you haven't. That's for sure. Let's see. On
2023.
to what's
Made that
that?
also. Now I was just thinking to myself, 2023 made, I mean 2022 made that such an awkward relationship.
Oh, right. Let's see. Number 9, The Color
Number
Purple,
9, yes.
1985.
Hey now.
7.7 on IMDb.
Yes.
And the synopsis is: a Black Southern woman struggles to find her identity after suffering abuse from her father and others for over 4 decades.
Hmm.
I just remember how heavy this movie was. It was a
Very
very heavy movie.
talking soiled clothes in a bag, a 30-gallon bag full of water. Heavy,
Hmm.
but
Yes.
such a good movie. Like
Very good.
it's funny. As heavy as this movie is, like there's a lot of things to take away from it. There's a lot you can learn from it. There's a lot of entertainment in it. Actually, this movie's funny as hell. It
Danny
shouldn't be
Glover is
funny.
the husband, right?
Yes, yes, Danny
Yeah.
Glover is the husband, or
Mhm.
excuse, well, the husband slash father.
Right. Yeah,
He's
yeah, yeah.
Mister. Let's just call him
Yes,
Mister. I don't
Mister.
even want to
Right.
try to dive into it, but the craziest thing about this movie to me is you don't really have to follow the story to understand the emotion,
Mhm.
right? And then when you are able to follow the story, you're able to get so much from every single character. I mean, even Shug Avery, who you only see, I think, 2 or 3 times in the entire movie, you're able to gain things from her just based on how she carries herself. And it's like, okay, her experiences must have been similar to that of what we're seeing. And that's why she has to avoid or act as if she doesn't see these things, right? Um, I had no clue this was a Steven Spielberg movie.
Mm.
I mean, well, in the last, of course, in my adult years, I did. But I mean, back when I first saw it, no clue this was a Steven Spielberg movie. even till this day, it still makes me go, "Damn, Spielberg!" Like,
Yeah.
like
Heavy subject matter, but good acting. Oprah also
I was
did a
gonna say,
great job. Yeah,
Oprah,
really
Whoopi.
emotional movie.
Yeah. Also, this is one of those movies that tips on what I was saying earlier. He sees the humanity in people. Um,
I think
I've
this
heard of
might be his first heavy drama.
so that's what I was going to tip on.
Yeah.
I think if this did not do well, if The Color Purple was not as successful as it was, he might not have, what was that, about 10 years later? Well, 9 years later, actually. He might not have been able to do what I think he considers, that one of those I was calling it earlier, passion flicks, which would be
Mm,
Schindler's List is a little down the list.
right. True. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I remember we watched it in I think like high school.
Oh, I think everybody watched Color Purple in high school. Wait, I
Yeah,
watched Color Purple and Schindler's
maybe
List
middle school. I don't know.
in high school.
Somewhere. Yeah, me too.
Goodfellas and
I
a
did
bunch of
too.
other
Yeah,
movies.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we have 1987's Empire of the Sun. And this is a 7.7 on IMDb, and it grossed only $22 million. So very, not a very great splashy movie. But it's about a young boy who struggles to survive under Japanese occupation of China during World War II. And this movie, I looked into it. It seems a little bit more of like the drama angle, but it's about this guy who basically gets trapped in an internment camp in China. Yeah, and it's just basically about him and his desire to get out, and him trying to find like happiness in his circumstance and hope and all of that stuff. So
I just came with a theory. I've never heard of Empire Sun until I was doing the research for this. And the movie next, the next film that we're about to discuss, I've never heard of until we were doing this. But after we talk about the next one, I want to point out something that I think I just realized about Spielberg's style,
yeah,
because I want to know
well,
what Always is about first and see if it correlates with my statement.
right. Well, that brings us to Always, which is 1989. It's rated a 6.4, and it grossed 43 million. And it's the spirit of a recently deceased expert pilot mentors a newer pilot while watching him fall in love with the girlfriend that he left behind. Oof, that's rough.
Wow. Berg. Okay. That I
Yeah.
actually might be interested in this one. Always. That's almost like a the classic reincarnation love story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, what was that? It wasn't Peggy Sue. No, it wasn't. Damn, there was like a Disney Channel TV movie, if you remember, it had the pink Power Ranger in it, and it was she had died, and then she came back to haunt her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend and help him fall in love.
Why does that somehow?
Damn, dude,
I barely remember seeing that, but I don't remember what it's called. And she's
I
been in
don't know.
so many things outside of Power Rangers that
Susie Q.
Susie
No,
Q.
I
That
did.
was the name
Did
of
I
it.
say that? Yeah, Susie Q. I think that's it.
You said something of that nature, yeah. Peggy
Yeah.
Sue, Susie Q.
Susie Q. Some Buddy Holly song.
Right. I'm saying here. I was just thinking like something that sounded like a country song. But wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Susie Q. Amy Jo Johnson.
Yeah, and you know what? That's an actress that she really needs to get her credit, and I don't think she does. So that theory I had a minute ago always does kind of tread right into that. And it goes to exactly what I was saying a minute ago. Spielberg does these ultra human movies, these very deep philosophical temperature of society type films, seemingly. And then he throws the fantastical in there with your Indiana Jones, E.T., Encounters of the Third Kind, Jaws, and he kind of gets you reeled in with that. And then when you see his name pop up on something like The Color Purple, Empire of the Sun, 1941, you're like, huh? Like, I gotta go see that.
Yeah, definitely. I think he does a good job about he can do heavy drama and also family movies. pretty darn well, pretty seamlessly actually.
It's funny. I was going to ask you what family movie has he done, and we have one coming up in two films.
Well, I mean, I would say Indiana Jones is sort of a family movie.
That's
E.T.
fair.
Yeah, E.T. for
E.T. is
sure.
definitely a family movie. Yeah.
Yeah. And then at 12, we have Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade, 1989, which grossed 197 million. It's an 8.2 on IMDb.
Yep.
This is the one with Sean Connery in it, and it is also a fantastic movie. Very good. I love the concept of the Holy Grail and all of the cool lore behind the search for the Holy Grail and stuff. And you know, one of the things about the Indiana Jones movies that they don't get credit for is how like close to historically accurate they are, especially with the lore.
I think Spielberg, James Cameron, George Lucas. There's plenty of others out there, right? But they are the guys that nobody talks about their dedication to their research. Like they absolutely enjoy the subject matter. You can tell. Like if they didn't enjoy the subject matter, I do not think we'd have some of these films. And what if I'm of the three we just named, even though he doesn't have some of the most fantastical movies, I think he has the most fantastical concepts. He seems like the one who is like, okay, if I myself were to be a hero, if I myself were to be able to do these things, what could a human being do versus, telepathy and all those other kind of things,
Right, yeah.
Turning into aliens and junk.
Definitely. All right, next on is 1991, back to childhood. It's Hook. Which is at a 6.8 and it grossed 119 million. Way too effing low.
Low.
And Metacritic has it at a 52, bro.
Too low.
I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea. It's the best Peter Pan movie that's ever been made. I don't know.
Like legitimately. There's no Peter Pan movie there's a Peter Pan movie that comes close, but it doesn't surpass it, and it's not on the same level. It's just close. And it's Hook. Are you kidding me? Like Rufio.
What a great movie.
Pan, Hook, the Tinkerbell's moments. Like, listen, nobody else was able to execute Tinkerbell and Hook the way the movie Hook was able to.
True.
Like
Julia Roberts, Dustin Hoffman. Yeah.
Like you can get Peter, and they've done Rufio a couple of times pretty decently. I don't think, no, I'm not gonna do that to Dante Bosco. There's never been another anti-villain in any of the Peter Pans as good as Dante Bosco played Rufio. Why doesn't this movie get more credit, and why is it ranked so low? I do not
That's
know.
ridiculous. Yeah. That's a really big shame because Robin Williams is fantastic in this movie. It's such a cool idea. What if Peter Pan left Neverland and came back when he was old?
As an adult, yeah, because he forgot who he was.
Man.
And as an adult now at 34 years old, listen, it makes so much sense.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So much sense.
Honestly, if you told me that I lived in Neverland for like 50 years when I was 6, you might be right.
I firmly believe it. If you told me that every time I went to sleep, I was in Neverland. If you told me that every summer, the reason that some summers seemed foggier than others because we would go off to Neverland and we didn't even know, I would believe it because that movie, that's the only, anyway, yeah. They do that.
Movie.
That's not a good enough service. I don't even know if we talked about the plot. But, it's a Peter Pan story. So what plot is really needed to read? But hey, if there's one there, by all means.
Yeah. Peter Pan leaves Neverland, gets old, and then has to be dragged back because he left unfinished business.
Man. Yeah. And if I remember, this was right off of Julia Roberts coming out of Pretty Woman. So she was really, I'm sure that the temperature on her playing Tinkerbell after playing Pretty Woman was not the most received. And she smashed that role.
Oh, yeah. She did great.
I didn't even understand why I was always smiling every time Tinkerbell came on the screen. But she had the right energy. She did things that a fairy in your mind would do, a happy fairy would do in your mind.
Yeah.
And Julia Roberts.
Great movie. Very good movie. But maybe not as good as the next movie, number 14, 1993.
That's not fair.
I know, but it's Jurassic Park, man. It's
Yeah,
Jurassic Park.
yeah.
8.2 on IMDb. It grossed $402 million, which is quite good for that time. I saw Jurassic Park in a drive-in movie theater.
Wow. When I
Yeah.
say I did not see it the first time in the drive-in, but I do remember watching it during my college years. We went to one of those drive-in pop-ups and watched uh nope, it wasn't the first one. We watched Lost World.
Mm-hmm.
We watched Lost World.
Nice.
It of course it's not as good, but it was
No,
on and it was a drive-in, so I still had to see it.
probably still one of the best movies ever made, and still one of the best CGI and practical effects movies ever made.
I'll go out on a limb and say the effects in Jurassic Park rival the effects in Avatar 1.
Honestly, it's crazy. We watched it recently. Like, my wife loves Jurassic Park, so it's always on at one point or another. But the animatronics, the puppetry, the CGI, all of it still holds up, and all of it still looks really good. And the story is great. I mean, talk about another movie you make a ride off of, right?
Right.
Very good.
Yeah. Hands down. I have nothing really to say about Jurassic Park. Great movie.
That
Jeff
movie
Goldblum.
made me want to be a paleontologist, and then I realized you didn't get to run away from dinosaurs, so.
or actually see any ever.
Or see
Hell,
any dinosaurs. Yeah,
you got to be a paleontologist for 60 years before they actually let you see a fossil. Let's know.
right. That's true. That is true. Okay, well, that moves us to 93, which is 15. I think this is his highest rated movie.
Yes.
And it is Schindler's List, and it's
Yes,
at a
back to
9
back.
on IMDb, and it grossed $96 million. Schindler's List is one I think that most people have seen. And it won a ton of Academy Awards. It was very, very well received. I think it's okay. That's a really hot take. It's a really hot take. I think it's okay. I think it's good because of the subject matter. And the subject matter is so harrowing and awful and dramatic that it's kind of a layup to tell them to have a movie about the Holocaust.
Right. Well, you consider a few things. This is
Mhm.
clearly, like I said earlier, a passion piece. So Schindler's List is that movie I was
Yeah.
talking about. Without Color Purple being successful, I don't think Schindler's List exists. The
Without that
interesting thing,
Jurassic Park money, Schindler's List
without the
probably
Jurassic
wouldn't.
Park
Yeah.
money for sure. No. Actually, we can't say that because again, something I may not have noted during the final production shots and post editing for Jurassic Park. Spielberg had to sign all of that off or allow or ask George Lucas to complete Jurassic Park for him because he went on to begin Schindler's List.
Right.
So it wasn't even the Jurassic Park money. It was really I want to say he might even come out of pocket to do Schindler's List.
And he might have actually had the studio breathing down his neck.
Yeah.
Because if you're rapping Jurassic Park, dude, you
so
could
I'm
maybe
thinking
wait
nobody
to
paid for
shoot your
that.
next movie.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think anybody paid for Schindler's List. I think that might have
Right.
been him considering. We know the budget that went into Jurassic Park. There's so many documentaries about the creation of that movie that if you know, and it's like, there was a lot of movie writing. Money and legacy, not just his legacy, the studio legacies were writing on Jurassic Park.
Mhm.
So with Schindler's List, it is noted as a biography as well. And just one thing for me, a critique I've always heard of the movie was that it was too uh personal to his heritage, right? I don't understand why anybody would have that issue with the movie itself. Um that would lend to why, in my opinion, that it has a 9. If it is something that is that personal to him and his heritage, he's not the only person with his national background. So I'm pretty sure that
Mhm.
most of the people who enjoy this movie the most, they may have a more personable connection. And I think that's why when you have, again, like I said a moment ago with The Color Purple, I think was so successful because it's an American story.
Well, and you have to also think Steven Spielberg was born in 1946, 1 year
Right.
after the war.
Right.
So you have to think he probably had family who might have
And that's
experienced
yep.
what happened. Yeah.
And that's where I was going with Schindler's List. Like Color Purple is an American story. Schindler's List is almost a world story. So
Yeah.
all around the world, when he tells that story, so many people were affected
Mhm.
by what the occurrences that Schindler's List touches on. That I kind of get why it did the numbers it did. I personally cannot say that I have sat down with Schindler's List to absorb it in that level, but I am familiar with it.
I've seen it. I think it's not bad by any means. I'm not going to say
Mhm.
that.
Right.
Liam Neeson is great. Ray Fiennes is in it.
Mhm.
Ben Kingsley. Yeah, I mean, it's a good acted tragedy. I mean, like it's such a tragic story. I also feel like, well, like of course it's a tragic story because it
Mhm.
was a tragic story. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
Right.
Like I don't know if you have to do too much,
Digging to
like
figure it out.
yeah, you don't have to do a whole lot of investigation and digging, and like we know, like that's already established. Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, Liam Neeson, great job in that one.
Right.
Um,
Oh yeah. Look, it's
yeah,
Liam
number
Neeson.
6, it's Liam Neeson. Number 16 is Jurassic Park: The Lost World, 1997. At
Lost,
6.5 on
lost
IMDb
cause.
and a $229 million movie. Um,
Really?
yeah, it didn't do as well as Jurassic Park. Yeah.
Jesus Christ! I thought actually it made more than I thought it would, or than I thought it did.
Mm.
Lost World.
Oh yeah, Lost World
That's
is
300.
not as good, but it has it has what's his name in it? Vince Vaughn, which is a
Ah, I
plus.
forget that. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's funny as hell.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, and again, I'm not saying that Lost World wasn't a good movie because again, I remember going to see it um in the drive-through. I didn't see the first one. I saw the second one in there, but eh, I really didn't think it made that much money. That's really all I have to say on that. Is
Oh yeah. Well, it made tons of money because of
yeah,
the hype of Jurassic Park. So yeah.
fair. That happens a
Uh,
lot.
Lost World.
I remember movies. Actually, there is a Steven Spielberg movie I just thought about, or maybe he was just associated with the film Small Soldier. No, Toy Soldiers. Small Soldiers. Small
Toy
Soldiers.
Soldiers.
Yeah, wasn't
Small
that Steven
Soldiers.
Spielberg?
I don't. He might have been a producer on that.
Maybe he was a producer.
Hmm.
Maybe 'cause I just thought about that. Like, wait, I remember him being associated with that somehow. And you
Yeah.
know what? DreamWorks might have been involved, so that might be why.
Yes. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. 97. Number 17. Amistad. Um,
Lamstad.
yes. 7.3 on IMDb and $44 million in the box office. This one, I remember it like swept the Oscars.
Yes.
I remember like vividly
I think
because
this was the first takeover movie I remember seeing in the Oscars in my lifetime.
yeah, I think you're right. Definitely. Because I remember distinctly like Amistad just won everything that year.
Right. And with you saying that, of course, Matthew McConaughey, Jaman Hansu, is that his name?
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, I
Morgan
till this
Freeman.
day do not understand. Yeah, Morgan Freeman. There's a lot of people. Where Anthony Hopkins is in it.
Hmm.
Um, but what I was gonna say about Jaman Hansu, I expected that man to become the biggest actor in the world after this movie. It
He's
it
done
it
so
just
much.
he's done
It's
so much
just
till this day. It doesn't make
yeah.
sense how he hasn't like he should be like most actors in his age range at this point. He should have some flagship series that's like, oh, they just wouldn't let him stop doing this movie, and he
I
hasn't
don't think
gotten
he
there yet.
wants to.
That's fair.
I think
That's
he
fair.
seems like he might be a guy that like just likes to do an acting gig once in a while and then
And
just
go
go
home and
live
be
his
with his
life.
family. That's
Yeah.
that's highly probable because after him and Amistad, listen, I don't understand how he didn't become I don't understand how he didn't take over Denzel's position, honestly.
Yeah, he was in Blood Diamond too, wasn't he?
Man, yeah, he
Yeah.
was.
Hmm.
And I had to even find out when that came out in relation to when this came out. But yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, yeah,
He's been
I could
in stuff
probably
for
we
a
could pull up his
long
stuff and
time.
just be
He's
give us
in he's in Marvel.
yeah, yeah,
He's
he's in Marvel.
he's in Guardians.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I forget the name of his character, but I can visualize his character right now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, great actor. Number 18, probably another one of Spielberg's very highly rated movies, Saving Private Ryan. 8.6 on IMDb, and it grossed $216 million. Honestly, all I can remember from Saving Private Ryan is the beginning scene.
Okay. I wasn't
Why?
sure which part you were. I just wasn't sure
Oh.
which part you were gonna remember.
No,
I'm
just the
saying, like,
beginning scene where they storm the beach and everybody dies and it's all chaotic. Like that's the biggest
the biggest
memory I
scene,
have of it. Yeah.
dragging him through the trenches.
Hmm.
Um, I think this movie is important to two careers. The relationship between Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks is born with Saving Private Ryan.
Hmm. True.
I don't think we realized how much we needed that relationship to be born, because the movies that they did together are like, whoa. Just certain talents you love seeing work together. And I never, that's a dynamic duo that I never would have probably thought of, but then you put them together and you're like, yo. Same thing with Spielberg and DiCaprio. Same thing. You don't expect it, but then you're like,
Oh, you mean Scorsese and DiCaprio?
did I say, well, who did I say?
Spielberg.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Titanic. Yeah, that's not
Cameron.
Spielberg. Wow.
Yeah.
That's James Cameron.
Hmm.
Okay, thank you. I'm like DiCaprio. Let's just leave it at DiCaprio. But you understand what I'm saying. Like, there are certain films and certain directors that when they get on the same page and they're working together, you just go, oh, that's special. Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg, they have a chemistry that's not really discussed or matched, in my opinion. But yeah, we can move forward.
Yeah, I think they have a good synergy with each other. And yeah, Tom Hanks he feels like a Spielberg character almost.
I like how you said that.
Yeah,
He feels like a Spielberg character. The person feels like a
yes,
character.
yes, he does. So we'll go to number 19, which is 2001's AI, Artificial Intelligence. Haley Joel Osment, obviously, rated 7.2 on IMDb, and it grossed $78 million. This movie creeped me out, man. And it kind of made me sad when I watched it.
Really?
Yeah, because at the end, he just decides to go like jump into the ocean and like die. But then he gets picked up by like another group of people or something. I forget.
He technically doesn't die.
He doesn't die, but yeah. But like he gets abandoned by everybody that he knows and he loves, and he's just like by himself, basically.
Yeah. It's a weird movie.
It's super weird.
I think it's an understood concept on, the disconnection and all of that kind of shit. But
like, bro, his parents wanted a child, and so they bought an AI child, Haley Joel Osment, and then they were able to have a child magically, and they got rid of Haley Joel Osment.
Which showed they weren't fit to be parents.
No, definitely not. No.
Again, I think I want to say, because this is 2001, technology was a little different, and it's way different now.
Yes.
I think that movie AI, because it's Scorsese and Spielberg working together, I think it was really a temperature read. I think it was them taking society, throwing a mirror in front of everybody and saying, hey, this is how we treat technology, and this is where technology is going, so we want to be very cognizant of how we treat our AI. Fast forward 22 years, Chat GPT.
Yeah, and I think it might be also a nod towards Stanley Kubrick and 2001: A Space Odyssey, because this comes out in 2001. So, and it's all about this weird futuristic stuff. Jude Law plays a robot gigolo, which is very entertaining.
Right. I just started busting up thinking, like, yeah, he was fun.
Yeah.
I will also note that I noted there wasn't a lot of tech in Spielberg's work until AI in 2021. I mean, 2001, 20. Wow. We've been doing this for too long. We didn't stop with these 20s now.
Too long. 2020. Yeah.
2001. And I know some people might go, oh, but what about, Indiana Jones? That was magic and curses. That's not technology. I thought these things in my head, like, what would people refute? What about Jurassic Park? And like, they were bringing back dinosaurs. Now, yes, that's using technology, but not in the same light in which you're using technology and AI. So I guess you can that could be a discussion, but the argument wouldn't really stand, in my opinion. But from 2001 with AI, you note um, the different levels of technology start to seeping into his work, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah. Number 20 is Minority Report at 2002. It's rated 7.6 and it grossed $132 million. Tom
Mhm,
Cruise, Colin Farrell,
mhm.
directed by Steven Spielberg. Now, this is another, I'd say, kind of a classic movie.
Yeah, I like this one.
And it's one that, seems pretty relevant today with the ideas of pre-crime and pre-cogs and total surveillance and all of that good stuff.
This movie was so awesome, but as we move closer to it being a reality, this movie is so scary.
Yeah, yeah.
This movie's spookier than iRobot.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Total surveillance, total like pre-crime. Knowing that you're going to commit a crime before you even do anything. Yeah, dystopian nightmare hellhole, which is fun.
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean, it's fun to watch on a TV show, but I don't know if it's fun to live.
maybe AI and Minority Report are in the same universe.
That is a really, oh my God, it could be. And I think the one of the most interesting things in the movie Minority Report is when the main, he wouldn't be a precog because the precogs were the ones who did the real guessing, but
Hmm.
the guy who's the best at using this technology is now the guy that they're chasing down, so nobody can prove that it's not him. And you realize the technology done flipped out. Uh, you needed it. You needed a movie like that in the early
Yeah,
2000s. Hell, we need a movie like that now.
we
But
definitely do.
yeah,
Yeah,
because people
Black
didn't
Mirror
catch
come
the warning.
back.
Man, Black Mirror restart, please. They
Yeah,
don't get it.
yeah,
They
yeah.
missed the point.
They did. They did. All right. So then we move on to another one of my favorite movies, Catch Me
Mhm.
If You Can, 2002. Is an 8.1 on IMDb, and it grossed $164 million. Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks, Christopher Walken, Martin Sheen.
Mhm.
Um, this movie's long, but it is, I think, when I think of a Spielberg movie, this is the type of thing that I think of. And I don't know why, but the casting is very good. The story is super good.
Mhm.
And it's a long movie. I know that it's 141 minutes, so it's almost 3 hours long.
Yeah.
2 hours 40 minutes. Um, it is. I really enjoy this movie. I really enjoy this movie. I like Tom Hanks. I like
Fun.
Leonardo DiCaprio. I love the story of Frank Abagnale and how he basically conned himself into law school and then as a doctor and then as a pilot for the fucking Pan Am.
Right.
It's a cool story.
And he left home at like 16, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He left home at 16. Yeah.
It's not till like 21, 22 they catch up to him as the pilot. I was like, wait. When I realized that part, like, wait, he was on the run for like 6, 7 years doing this?
And he forged like $2 million in checks. Like,
Like, give that man his credit, which I do until I'm
man.
trying to throw him in prison.
Yeah. So great movie. It's actually kind of like a buddy movie, but it's a cat and mouse movie that turns into a buddy movie, which is
Yeah.
interesting for sure.
I think that to me, when I found out it was a real story, that was the part that made it kind of gross to me to try to make it a buddy flick, unless you can prove that he and the agent actually grew a rapport. Like
Oh,
maybe he had to serve his time.
they were still friends.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe they covered that in the movie, and I don't remember that. But
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah.
was saying. I'm about to say, because if you go through all of that, and in the movie, it's like, oh, they were buddies, but it's like, nah, like he was still a kid. So I could see the
Yes.
agent
Yeah.
really like, hey, you got to do your time, but I'll be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could see that being a
I
real
believe. I think that I think Abigail is still alive, but I think the agent might have passed away.
pass.
But
Okay,
they were friends the entire time
that's
afterwards,
pretty cool. Did
and they even
he
worked
got life,
together.
right?
No, he traded his sentence for working for the FBI.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I knew. Okay, I'm just gonna say okay because I misunderstood that. I know he
Yeah.
worked or I thought he was just an informant. Like I thought that was a part of his sentencing. I didn't know that was a part of getting off.
It was a part of him getting off, and then he continued to work for the FBI as a consultant for check fraud. Yeah.
Man, why he ain't on YouTube doing podcasts like all the rest of them?
Right. That would have been cool.
There's a bunch of these dudes out here doing podcasts. I ain't trying to hear their stories as much as I might want to hear his actual story from his mouth.
I would like to hear that story for sure. Great movie. On to number 22, The Terminal 2004, another Tom Hanks flick, rated as a 7.4 on IMDb, and that grossed $77 million. I don't really like this movie all that much, if I'm going to be
Didn't see
honest.
it.
It's okay. It's Tom Hanks pretending to be from Krakovia, which is some made up
I did see
Eastern
this.
European country.
Yeah. Okay, no, it's the one where he gets stuck and he doesn't speak English
Hmm.
and he's just stuck in the terminal
Yes,
for
and it was
like 2
actually
weeks or something.
no, years. It was actually about an Iranian man who did it, and I believe he did it for like the rest of his life. He just lived in the airport.
Oh,
Yeah, because he couldn't get back to Iran because he was wanted or like he was going to get face death, but
mhm.
America didn't want to keep him either. So he just lived at the
Kept
airport
bouncing
for like
airport to
years.
airport.
Yeah.
Was it now? Okay, yeah, because the terminal's on my maybe list because I don't remember if I seen it, but then you just reminded me I've clearly seen it, but I don't
Yeah.
remember the whole get down. Um, was he in one airport or was he bouncing airport to
One
airport?
airport. Yeah, I think it was JFK.
I need to go
Yeah.
rewatch this. Oh wow,
Mhm.
okay, no, that JFK and this is probably like so movie was 2005, no, 2004. So this
2004.
probably
Yeah.
happened real life in like the 80s.
Yes, I believe so. Something like
At the
that.
time, JFK I think was considered the biggest airport in the world. That's possible. That I can see
Yeah.
that actually being possible.
Yeah, so it's just about the dude and how he basically just lives for free at the airport.
That's great.
And it's based on a true story. So that's kind of cool.
I might have to
uh,
go rewatch the terminal.
yeah. It's a little bit slow, if I'm being honest, but
Most Spielberg
that's
movies
okay.
are, in my
Yeah.
opinion. The War of the
Um,
Worlds is slow. Oh wait, we're getting there. Sorry.
Yes, so we're about to say that. Yes, War of the Worlds 2005, rated a 6.5. This one raked in about $234 million at the box office. It stars Tom Cruise, Dakota Fanning, and Tim Robbins. I just watched this one today because I needed to pick one that I hadn't seen in
Okay.
order to sort of fill in the gaps a little bit. This
Mhm.
movie's pretty slow too. Yeah. Yeah. And Tom Cruise running around trying to pretend to be afraid of giant tripods just doesn't work all that well.
No, it doesn't. Movie is still kind of good. Tom Cruise is though not the best part. Like he's
Tom Cruise
honestly
is
in the
really
bottom
not that
5 parts of
good.
this movie.
He's not that good in that movie.
I think
Holy
he's one of the
moly.
weak legs of the table in this movie.
I kind of agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. He feels like a little bit wooden. Like he doesn't really even want to be there.
Something that I've always thought, because this movie came out close to like I was in high school already, university. I actually had to watch World of Worlds for a theater class in university.
Mm.
And I remember, and I can't remember why specifically it was World of Worlds, but I remember specifically telling them like to have one of the world's greatest actors, that was one of the worst fucking performances I've seen.
Yeah.
And it was like it seemed to me like he didn't want to do the movie. The source material for the character was just so blab. He had nothing to add. Um, but it was something that was very off about Tom Cruise in this movie. It really seemed more like an obligatory movie for him than something he wanted to do. And if you look at a lot of the work that Tom Cruise has done, he doesn't do World of Worlds type of movies.
No, definitely not. I think he's only done a few supernatural movies,
Hmm.
and they were relatively early in his career.
I think all of
I
them were
think
contractual.
Legend, Interview with a Vampire, and this movie, maybe.
And with you saying Interview with the Vampire, that is an example of a movie that I believe he was forced to do, but he
Yeah, I think
still
so.
at least enjoyed the source material.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Mm.
This movie is just, this one's definitely a skip for me because I just was like, meh. Tom
Mhm.
Cruise just wasn't selling it as. I like John Cusack in The Day After Tomorrow better than Tom Cruise in this movie.
What, didn't this and Signs come out in the same year?
Oh no, John Cusack was in 2012. I'm sorry.
Mm.
Yeah.
But I want to say, did War of the Worlds and Signs come out in the same year or close to it,
Oh,
right?
maybe close to
Maybe a year or
that.
so
Yeah.
apart.
Mhm.
I remember the reason I asked that is I used to get those two movies confused until one day I had watched both of them. No, I think I watched both of them in a week span. And Signs is so much of a better movie.
Oh yeah. Oh, but then this, yes, definitely. Yeah.
Like so much of a better movie.
So much better, for sure. All right, and then we get to another kind of a snoozer for me. I went to go see this in the theaters. It's 2005's Munich, and it is a 7.5 on IMDb, and it grossed $47 million. It starred Eric Bana, Daniel Craig, and a couple other people. I was really brought in by the trailer for this movie because it seemed like a spy movie that was going to be like super tense and thrillery. It was so slow, man. By the time they got to the car explosion, I was like, that's what I came here for, and that's it.
Man, I will say that's interesting for the reason of I enjoyed Munich because I knew the historical context. Another movie that I was kind of pushed into watching because of academia. Man, knowing the history and how it all transpired and started up and went down, then watching the movie, for me, it was like, yo, this is fucked up. But a huge question I still have to this day is, yeah, I didn't see that shit coming.
I guess not.
I'm like, I don't, it's like even to this day, when it comes to Olympic meets, right? There's always like so much precaution and so much discussion leading into these things and where they're having them, what teams are going from what countries and the issues between the two countries. They knew in the movie, they basically tell you they knew that this would impossibly was going to happen, and it still happened because not enough precautions were put into place. And something that they still do today, or something they still say they do today, is displacing of the community. And that was a big part of why the situation happened in Munich.
Yeah.
That movie to me, yes, it's slow. It is kind of boring, but it stands as one of those signs of someone like Spielberg had the time to make a PSA for the people who aren't listening to the people under them. Hey, I have as much money as you. I see the things you see. I live the life you live. Here's a movie for you to watch so you see where you're fucking up. I feel like that's what Munich was. But again, as I said before, he has so many of those fantastical things. As we even look around the movies that are around Munich, you have War of the Worlds, Munich, and then the next one we'll have is Crystal Skull. You get the real world things, the human things inside of all of these fantastical elements. So I can understand how Munich would translate as slow, or boring, because it just doesn't seem like, for the run Spielberg was having from about 2001 until he did Munich almost doesn't make sense, even when you add like the next 4 movies.
Yeah, I guess I was guessing more thriller, maybe a little bit more intrigue and stuff, but I just found myself like it was more of a period. It was more of a period piece.
Yeah, no, I fully agree.
Than a thriller.
Yeah, I fully agree. I expected it to be more entertaining, be more action packed. The way the trailer, I remember the trailers, they definitely made you think you were going to watch an action movie.
Yeah,
like
it definitely did.
And you got all of the action in 2 scenes, and it was stretched out in the trailer as if it was like the
whole movie. Yes, yeah, I definitely remember that.
That was a big disappointment for me as well. But I have to say that I did enjoy the movie Munich. I didn't even realize how high on my movie list it was.
And this is where we start to see the decline of old Steven.
Munich is like the end of the hill.
It might be the end of his era there, because we get in 2008 we get number 25, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, rated 6.2, and it made $317 million. I know 10 of those dollars was for me, and I apologize for that.
I remember I lost a bet and I had to pay for a friend of mine to go see this movie. So I also
did we all see this together, or was that before we hung out? It must have been before.
I want to say it was around the time. No, it was a little before.
Wait, when did it? This is 2008. Yeah, so it was like a year or so before.
And for me, I remember you trying to get us to watch this, but it wasn't in theaters. I want to say we were at somebody's house. That's a whole nother discussion. Dang, I remember you trying to get us to watch this movie.
Yeah, because it was awful.
I remember losing a bet. I lost. We were playing a Gears of War tournament, and My bet was because college basketball tickets and a movie ticket are about the same price.
Fair enough.
And if I won, the person had to buy me tickets to go to the game that was on campus that day. And it wasn't. Oh, that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, it wasn't a school game, so you actually had to pay to go to the game. And if I lost, which I did, it was to give them money to go and see this crap of a movie. And they tried to get me to go with them. I did not take that side of the bet. I did not take that.
Good
side
for
of the
you.
bet.
Good for you. Yeah.
And here's my reason. It was 2008, and I was asking, why the hell is there an Indiana Jones movie coming out? And that's the one where he has a son, yeah?
Yeah. Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah. Oh, see, I don't even remember. I forgot that's who played his kid, but I remember it was like that was the whole thing for my friend. It was like, oh, but he has a kid, it's a young Indy, and that.
Bro, he was 70 years old in 2008, and there's about to be an Indiana Jones freaking 5.
What?
Yeah, they're gonna make another one, dude, and Harrison Ford's gonna be in it.
And he almost 90?
He's way too old to be in any of this stuff.
I mean, we say sit Clint Eastwood ass down on a regular basis. We could say start sitting Harrison.
I mean, at this point, like if you really want Indiana Jones, which I don't think that they do, I just think that they want to capitalize off the name. But if you were really interested in Indiana Jones and wanted to do it right, reboot it.
Yeah,
just reboot it.
And with me to comment on why I said Clint Eastwood in that notion. We talk shit because Clint Eastwood is so old, but at least Clint Eastwood is bankrolling his own flicks, and they're still interesting.
Yeah, and he knows that, like sometimes he can't be the movie star in his movies.
Yeah. Sometimes he just has to stand on the porch and grimace.
Right. Get off my lawn.
Oh man, spend too much time with Crystal Skull.
Yeah, too much time. Number 26 is The Adventures of Tintin, which was 2011. It was 7.3 on IMDb, and it grossed $77 million. I have not seen this movie, man.
Big maybe for me.
Yeah.
I watched the trailer and I was like, I remember the trailer so vividly that it made me think I've seen the movie, but I do not remember the movie.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know. I didn't watch it, but I did look into it, and a lot of people really like it. So apparently, it's got like a good fan base. So
not quite a cult following, but it's up there.
It's up there. Yeah, not a cult following. Number 27 is War Horse, which is 2011, and it's a 7.2. And it grossed $79 million. It stars Jeremy Irvine, Emily Watson, and Benedict Cumberbatch. I haven't seen this one either, man.
That's his introduction when he really jumped off into the scene.
It could be, maybe. Yeah, have you seen War Horse?
In America, at least.
Yeah.
What was your question? I'm sorry.
Have you seen it?
No. I have not seen this.
Nah.
Heard of War Horse, but I haven't seen it, and I don't think I've even heard enough about it to comment on the things I've heard.
Bro, this really is the decline. I'm honestly like that's super unfortunate. I don't know what Spielberg's doing, but
Oh yeah, no, his TV stuff. So I'd say honestly, from about the time, excuse me, from about Catch Me If You Can, like 2002, 2001 ish. That was probably like when the real decline started. There was still some stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, he's still Steven Spielberg, so he can put out an absolute stinker and nobody's going to tear it that deep because he's given us so much. It's like, he was bound to give us something terrible. And that's really how it's going to be castigated.
Agreed. Yeah, you're right about that for sure. He does get a little bit of a bump in 2012 with Lincoln. And this is 7.3 on IMDb, and this made 182 million. Stars Daniel Day-Lewis, Sally Fields, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I've seen this movie. I've tried to watch this movie like 3 times, and I fall asleep every time. If I'm being totally honest,
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Remember? Yeah. Okay, so I remember this and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer came out around.
Yes, it did.
Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer did much better.
Yes,
it was just more entertaining. And we all know he wasn't a vampire slayer.
I mean, yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis, I think, won an Oscar for this one, but he wins an Oscar for everything he does. Yeah. He's great at everything, but I don't even him, like even he couldn't. I don't know. This
Get you to
movie's
watch the screen for 3. Well,
yeah.
I think the movie was about 3 hours.
It's just 3 hours of Abraham Lincoln talking in drafty rooms about, like the need to have the Civil War.
You mean
You
sitting
know?
this far away from the microphone and talking like this and making
Yeah.
you listen in
Yeah.
a very no.
Oh no,
But-
he has the raised voice. He talks. I really must make sure that this country stays together.
Pre-Obama.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's why he had to have the big beard, because he was like 6'7" and had a tiny voice, which is very
Right.
strange.
Yeah.
The number 29 is Bridges Spies. This is 2015. It's a 7.6, and it grossed $72 million. That's Tom Hanks. And I haven't seen it either.
No.
No.
No. And I'm sure this is the last time Tom Hanks decided to work with good old buddy, because it was like, hey, I think we're losing it.
Yeah, we might be losing it. No, actually, he's in another one coming up.
Yeah, he's in the next one.
Yes, and the next one. He's in. No, he's
The next
not
two?
in. No, not in the next two. The next one is BFG,
Mhm.
which is a 6.3, and that grossed 55 million. I have not seen that one, but that's the animated one about the giant.
Right.
Have you seen it?
This is on my maybe list. I remember The Big Friendly Giant, but for whatever reason, I can't verify if I've seen the movie. The BFG was one of those like whirlwind classics when it came out, right? But because it was only 7 years ago, I was already an adult. So I can't verify that I didn't see the movie, but I can't verify that I did, because I'm sure that if I did, I saw it in passing, like on Netflix or one of the apps or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But
yeah, I didn't see it. So.
yeah, I'm like, but familiar with it, just not
Back
one
in
of
my
those.
day, back in my Quake playing days, BFG meant big fucking gun.
Yeah, yes it did.
So
Yes, it did.
every time I see BFG, that's what I see.
It's like, yeah, we're bringing it
Yeah.
into the mainstream.
The next one I haven't even heard of. It's called The Post, and it's 2017, and it's a 7.2 on IMDb. It grossed $81 million, and it stars Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks. I didn't even
heard of it.
No,
Meryl Streep
you?
and Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is not the reason I wanted to watch that movie. Meryl Streep is, and I have not seen it.
Okay.
I have. Oh no, sorry. Let me say that correctly. I have not completed it. I have started it. I've seen pieces of it. I do not own it, and I cannot find it anywhere. I'm sure if I look for it, because I haven't tried to watch it in a while, I'll probably find it now. But when it first came out 5-6 years ago, I was interested because I think Meryl Streep is one of the better actresses of this era. However, I was very interested to see her and Tom Hanks work together.
That's fair.
And let's be honest, anybody, just because I said it, anybody that you believe is a great of an era also has some terrible fucking work in that era. You can't become a great if we don't have anything to compare it to.
It's very true. Yeah, and you're gonna have sometimes it just doesn't work. So
yeah. But I do want to say really quick, back to the Big Friendly Giant. The craziest thing about the movie The Big Friendly Giant is what I remember. I remember the movie being pushed off as it was just about like this random situation, and then when I found out what that movie was about, and it's this basically, a giant helping this little girl try to stop the human eating giants from getting into the human world. Wow, and wow, but I still never went to see it. But I remember that. That's what I was saying about the Big Friendly Giant. Like I remember all of the elements of it, but I can't remember if I actually sat and watched it. But I do remember the concept was like, okay. And that's remembering that movie came out again 2008-ish, no, 2016-ish. If it came out in 2020, I have no interest. But 2016, it was a different temperature in things. So wanted to just note that really quick, because why would a giant try to help you stop his friends from doing their thing?
Who knows? He's the friendly one. Well, that leaves us to second to the last, which is number 32, Ready Player One. 2018, it's a 7.4 on IMDb, and it grossed $137 million. Yeah, this movie's fun. I like this movie. I don't think it's his best, but I think it's a decent enough movie. I recall, I think I watched it maybe like a few months ago, and the graphics are still pretty good. The story is pretty straightforward, coming of age, hero journey sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice to see all of those franchises together in a movie. You know, like all of the Universal franchises, basically, in one movie.
Together.
So,
I did not get to see Ready Player One. I actually was looking further down the list. I thought we were on the final one already, but you did say second to last. I did not see Ready Player One. I wanted to see it. Another one that I actually wanted to see. I feel like it's still so fresh, even though it's about 5 years old now, 6 years old now. But I still like
it's on
it's still
HBO.
So fresh
You can
that if I
watch
were
it.
right, I was just about to say that I'm pretty sure I'll accidentally scroll across it sometime in the next few months. But when it first came out, I wasn't interested in this movie. There were way too many video game-esque movies coming out between 2017 and 2020. Over it. But hindsight, Ready Player One is one of those that I've heard is different from the others.
Yeah, I think it's about a 6.5 or a 7 for sure. It's not bad.
Pretty decent movie rating.
Yeah, it's good. It's simple. It's not like overly complicated, but it's decent, I would say. Which leaves us at our last movie, and that is number 33, and that's 2021's A West Side Story.
West Side
Story, and this is a 7.2 on IMDb, and that grossed nothing because it came out during the pandemic.
Yeah, I'm about to say that was a hey, you guys wanted a new rendition of a 1950s musical, so here you go.
And everybody said no, we didn't.
Man, that was the first thing out of my mouth, and I thought to myself, so that's what they're doing, Ansel. Like of all the things that kid can be working on, this is what they have him doing.
Ansel Elgort, yeah. Yeah,
because he's the only notable person I think that was in that. I think it was a lot of new faces.
Let me just double check.
Wait,
Ansel Elgort, Ariana DeBose, David
Rita Moreno's
Alvarez,
in it, the original.
Yeah, I think one of the things that also didn't help it is that they made it in Spanish, but didn't put any subtitles.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. So it was hard for a lot of people to watch because, you know, if you don't speak Spanish, then you don't really understand a lot of what's going on.
Well, at least we know it's Spanish. You know, nowadays, I don't know what's going on in the world of entertainment, but they don't put in subtitles anymore that it's Spanish. They just say not English, which is confusing as hell. Like, we know what Spanish is. In fact, most of us partially speak it. We just don't speak it fluently. So we need you guys to translate that shit in subtitles.
Yeah, and hey, maybe if you give me the subtitles as well, I can start learning words.
Just a little bit. You know? Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I only say that because that's something that happened at the Grammys, I think, last year, and I'm still confused on what the hell that was about. But whatever.
Yeah, that is all of Steven Spielberg's movies. I want to make a note of something. His box office actually hasn't been very good since, I'd say, Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And like I'm looking back at it, I think Jurassic Park is his highest grossing movie. Actually, E.T. E.T. is 435 million and Jurassic Park is 402 million.
Oh, so I was right. E.T. is higher.
Yeah, E.T. is the highest grossing, I guess.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which one of those were 1 and 2, but I figured those were 1 and 2.
He makes it to the 200 million range a few times, but most of the movies are sub 100 million.
Right. I mean, look, watch this. I can show you how you get to 10 billion over time right now. Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 3 of the 5 Indiana Jones, E.T., Color Purple, Hook, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, and Saving Private Ryan. I won't even throw Amistad in there. Catch Me If You Can was that was kind of a phenomena.
And all the licensing rights for those movies for the rides and the merchandise and all that stuff. Yeah.
So you take all of that and you could throw everything else away. You take all of that and the rides and stuff because all of those were part of that. Yeah, that's how you hit his 10 billion as far as being the highest grossing. But without the rides, all of those are the ones that still made him the highest grossing director of all time. It's not the rest of the shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Quite a prolific list of movies, but I don't think we got your favorite.
Oh no, we have not said our favorites yet. I do want to say that if I am Steven Spielberg and I'm looking at this collage of work, it's a beautiful collage.
Oh yeah, nothing to be upset about. That's for sure. He's
No.
done an incredible job making movies and producing movies because his producer credits are way longer.
Right,
So,
and his TV credits again. My favorite credits of Steven Spielberg will definitely come in his TV stuff, because of his animated stuff. You know,
interesting.
and
Yeah.
but mostly Animaniacs, Tiny Toons. But
Right.
so,
Right.
Steven Spielberg's movies that are my favorite. I'm gonna give us 3. I feel like with this amount of movies, to just give 1 or 2 would be a disservice. To give more than 3 would be oversaturation. So for me, Munich, Hook, and I had to choose between Jurassic and The Color Purple, and I chose The Color Purple.
Wow. All right.
Yes.
Fair
And
enough.
mostly because I didn't want to run with the money. I think all the 3 that I chose are the ones that you can really sit. Again, Munich is kind of boring, but I got so much from it when I was younger. If I didn't have a connection to that movie from being younger, then it would have to be Jurassic Park, Color Purple, and Hook. Hook and Color Purple were in there. Jurassic Park was right there. Munich only makes it because of the academia aspect of it.
Yeah. If I was picking 3, I would say number 1 is Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. That's my favorite personally. Then it's Jurassic Park, and then it's Hook. So I think we have to say that either Jurassic Park or Hook is Steven Spielberg's best movie.
Yeah, because both of those are definitely, like I say, in the top 3. Munich. After doing the research, I remembered how much I really enjoyed Munich, and I was so young when Munich came out. Like that movie, for that movie to sit with me as a high schooler or in college, I can't remember if it was one of the two, which of the two. But for that movie to sit with me at that time in my life, like I had to bring that out. High school.
For sure. But, so let's be edgy and say Hook is Steven Spielberg's best movie.
Yeah. And you know why I believe we should say Hook is his best movie?
Because Metacritic has scored it too low.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And because it came out first. So imagine if Hook doesn't do well, the studio might drop Jurassic Park before they finish it.
That's true. It came out 2 years before. 2 years.
So it had enough time for it to not do well and them to pull the cord.
True. How much did Hook make? Hook made 119 million.
Not enough.
Well,
it's never going to be enough. No. Listen, I'm willing. You know what? Maybe we should do a Robin Williams episode because I'm wondering, did Robin Williams ever get what he was due in a film?
The genie from Aladdin.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
I think that was like one of his biggest things.
And what was the other one? One Flew to Cuckoo's Nest?
Birdcage.
Birdcage, sorry. Both of those movies are too close. They remind me a lot of each other. Birdcage. I think maybe those two he might have got. No,
and then you get Patch Flubber, Adams, Flubber, What Dreams May Come.
Down the road, he definitely started getting his real
Popeye. I mean, he was Popeye.
Man, he was Popeye. All right. Yeah. We could do a Robin Williams episode.
Yes, we will. We'll do a pop culture onslaught about Robin Williams at some point too. Yes, cool. I think we're done, man. You good?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Hook officially, according to the Screen Time Continuum, is Steven Spielberg's greatest film of all time. Jurassic Park is a close number 2, and we are not even close to thinking of a number 3.
Because the rest of his movies are number 3.
All of them. All right.
All of his movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, then I think we can wrap it up here, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you enjoyed this special episode of Pop Culture Onslaught. I think going forward, when we do this is what we're going to do is sort of pick a movie genre or a director or an actor and just talk about their bodies of work and talk about what we like. And we'll see where we go from here. There's plenty of discussions that we can be had. So stay tuned for that. We're just going to we're going to use these episodes to sort of mix up all of the reviews that we've done. Because I was looking through our channel the other day, and I'm like, review. And we only have a few of these, so I think we can mix it up with that. Oh, and by the way, man, happy 200th episode. We have
happy
200
200th
episodes. Yeah, which
Yes,
is
indeed.
really cool. So we are excited about that. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate all of you out there. Please consider giving us a thumbs up and a subscription to our YouTube page. It would really help us out. We are trying to grow that audience out, and we can't do it without your help. So thank you so much for tuning into with us tonight. And let us know what your favorite Steven Spielberg movie is in the comments below. We would love to hear from you about that. I have a special end card here, which I will go over. This is our podcast list of podcasts that we do. So you can go check out any of those podcasts with our friends. And we have a one every day of the week for you guys. And you can check them out here. I know that we usually do a very long preamble at the end of the episode where we tell you where to go and all of that. So I figured to just put it all in one place for you guys. You can check it out here and go check out all of those channels, and please give them thumbs up and subscriptions. It would really help us out. Thank you so much, everybody out there. I'm going to pull this back so we can officially say goodnight to everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the Screen Time Continuum, guys. Thank you. For the Screen Time Continuum, I am Nick.
And I'm Keelan.
Good night, guys.
Thanks for hanging out. Spilling on